Hello and welcome to the ACE Anthropology. In the previous lecture, we talked about the meaning of anthropology. In this video, we'll discuss the scope of anthropology and research strategies. The coming lectures will be in systematic manner. So, if you have already watched those videos which are there, I would request you to just go through them once and make short notes out of it. Now we'll start with our first topic, which is scope of anthropology. The first and foremost thing that we must understand is the scope of anthropology is universal in nature. It does not restrict itself. It does not restrict itself to any one aspect of humankind. It covers biological, social, cultural aspect of humankind across time and space. It does not restrict itself to the study of group of people only. It studies simple, peasant, urban societies. Simple basically is things that we are going to use for tribal societies. Peasants are the we'll consider them to be the community which we will try to restrict them to agriculture and village. Urban is the societies. Anthropology doesn't confine itself to a particular period. So it does not confine itself to a particular period. It studies the prehistory, it studies proto-history, it studies history, it studies present and also the future. It does not restrict itself to a particular place on earth. So it does not restrict itself to a place. They'll work on all continents. Everywhere on the earth, may it be Asia, Africa, America, Europe. It study human from the emergence till the present state. Study emergence to the present date. As we are discussing the scope of anthropology, the very first thing that we are going to remember is this, that the scope of anthropology is universal. The scope of anthropology is universal. It deals with biological, social and cultural aspects of humankind across time and space, which was also the definition given by Mervyn Harris. This is the definition that you are going to remember. So does it restrict itself to a particular society? No. It studies simple society, that is tribal society, peasant society, urban society. Does it restrict itself to a particular period? No. It studies prehistory, proto-history, history, present and also the future. Does it restrict itself to a place? No. It covers all continents like Asia, Africa, America, Europe, Australia. And what it studies basically is the emergence of human till its present form. The key terms that we are going to remember here while writing an answer, that if a 5 marker, 10 marker, if 10 marker comes on scope of anthropology or meaning of anthropology, for the meaning I have given a proper answer in the previous video. Please go through it and write it down. This is the second, where we'll talk about the scope of anthropology. So the key points here is universal, society, period, place, etc. And the definition, most important is definition of anthropology. So this is how we are going to conclude the scope of anthropology. Now we have to understand that what basically the scope of anthropology examines. So first it examines how human are basically organism. Here we are talking about primate. Second is adaptation to environment. Second is adaptation to environment through culture. Through culture, with the help of culture, how human adapt to environment. The next is development of language. Development of language. The fourth is problem solving ability. Problem solving ability. The fifth is developing of variations. Variation. So these are the topics that we are going to discuss in the scope of anthropology. Or anthropology examines in its scope how basically these all comes under the biological, social and cultural aspects of human being. Now focusing on the next topic, which is research strategies. Research strategies. I would recommend, if you want to make short notes on research strategies, do not go with any book in particular, because hardly one question may come or may not come. The probability is very low. So go through internet, find a good site where you can find out the cutouts or the write-ups on this particular topic. So there are 6 research strategies or approaches to the research that we are going to write down, and we will discuss on each one of them in very brief, but at the same time I would give some of the points which you can use it as your fodder. But I would still recommend you that you should just write down these points and remember it, because while writing the answer, the only thing that you are going to recall is the highlighters or the key points. So we will only write down the key points of this, and as far as this particular topic is concerned, only one question might come in the exam. So there is good chances that you should go with the internet and find out the better cutout. Our answer is definitely good, but I would still ask you to go and write down a long answer so that you can have a brief about it. The first research strategy approach is fieldwork approach. Fieldwork approach. The second is holistic approach. The third is comparative approach. Fourth is Amiconetic approach. Fifth is system and process approach, and sixth is case study approach. Now one by one we will discuss on each one of them. Let us start with fieldwork approach. If possible, write it down with the way I am speaking. I'll try to dictate it, but if some topic is being missed, I would request you to simply go and pause it and write it down again. So in fieldwork approach, this was basically the brainchild of Franz Boas. When we will start the theories chapter of the paper 1, we'll discuss about Franz Boas and his contribution to the historical particularism. He is someone who will be very important. His concepts are very important, so we will discuss him thoroughly when we'll start the topic. But now as far as this fieldwork is concerned, we'll only deal with fieldwork approach. So collection of information outside laboratory, outside laboratory, library, laboratory, library, or workplace, through disciplines. Field method approach involve various methods, like it involves informal or formal interviews, direct conversation or direct observation, it also involves participation in the life of group, self-analysis, results from activities, etc., undertaken off or on line, and life history. It is referred as qualitative method. Qualitative method. It often includes the quantitative dimension. It often includes quantitative dimension. As far as the fieldwork approach is concerned, in this approach, as an anthropologist, one has to go outside. One has to go in the field and learn about this thing. One cannot simply sit in library or on his chair while studying this. He has to go conduct some informal interviews, direct observations, participations. We'll clump it together and call it as qualitative method, but at the same time it also include quantitative dimensions. It deals with the process of collecting information about biological, social, cultural aspect which may be live or extinct, and it highlights the collection of raw material which can be used, or which definitely has to be used for anthropology. The second that we are going to talk is anthropology as holistic. In holistic approach, the term holistic approach signifies the study of society as a whole without fragmenting or dividing. So the key point here is without fragmenting or dividing. So here in holistic way, we'll study the society as a whole. We will not try to segregate a particular part and study. We'll study society as a complete unit. This means one cannot understand a complete comprehensive view unless he study comprehensive approach or holistic approach. Everything to whole and whole to everything. Everything to whole and whole to everything. When we'll start the chapter 2 in culture, we'll come across various topic where we'll understand that, particularly in cultural pattern, we'll get that as a unit one has to stand, or you cannot study a particular unit and then conclude that the whole system is that way. You have to have a comprehensive view, a holistic perspective of a thing, right? That comes under holistic approach. It studies at all time and all places, so it will be definitely across time and space, right? It comes across time and space. Different subsets like biological, cultural and social aspects are studied with each other. So here also biological, cultural and social aspects are studied across time and frame in holistic approach. It gives the broad view and deep perspective. It definitely gives broad view and a deep perspective to the matter. The holistic approach is very important to implement government schemes successfully. So holistic approach is very important. In order to implement government schemes successfully, we'll write down a case study here. There was a village in Vidarbha area. Under Nirmal Gram Yojana, free toilets were to be built. But it was seen that came under notice that the toilet was used for every other purpose than that. There are obvious different reasons. There can be that if the toilet is built, this was one of the safe place for the family to keep their important things, as the complete house must be kacha house, and that the structure of the toilet was the only pakka structure which was built there. Then there was ventilation problem for the people. Some people used to consider it as a filthy approach, and yes, there was something different in going out to the fields in the morning. That was also considered to be a great thing for them. Then third basic problem here, or the thing, was a religious perspective was not taken into consideration. The religious perspective was that the toilets which were built, they were facing western direction, but in certain culture you cannot do that. You cannot urinate, or you cannot use toilet which are facing to the west, because that's the direction for the people to worship in certain culture. So this was basically the problem which came under that, and we had to we as an anthropologist has to come up with a solution, that this is how we come across the thing. So while dealing with the anthropology as a holistic, we have enough point and fodder to write 150 marker, a word marker, 10 marker. The next is comparative approach. In comparative approach, it compares the biological, cultural and society of different people in order to learn what they are, how culture, biological patterns are related to one another, how one society is related to another society, and tries to find out the similarities and differences at a time. Comparative approach tries to find the cause of difference. Is kinship same in Africa, Europe and Asia? So that is not. Kinship is basically the relation that we have with our close kins or the relatives. So there are terminologies which are different. We call it papa, chacha, tauji, etc. But in various societies that will study when we'll come to the religion, economic anthropology and others, and even in the kinship, when we'll start the kinship, we will get this term, that how this terminologies are changing. We'll deal with that. Is it universal or it varies? The first thing is kinship same across world? Second was, is it universal or varies? Third was, this comparative method goes into the core. You see, in every approach, what we are going to study is biological, cultural and social aspect across time and space, and that we are going to do in comparative manner, that we are going to compare society A with respect to society B. We'll take an institution, for example kinship, we'll study kinship here. We'll take family, we'll study family here. So this is how we are going to do or study in comparative approach. In system and process approach, system and process approach, the study of nature and working of every system in relation with every other system. So There are institutions like family, marriage, kinship, economy, religion, and anything that comes. So in system and process, there cannot be family. See, family is something which is connected to marriage, kinship, economic, religion. Religion is connected to economy, economy is connected to religion, religion is also connected to kinship, and vice versa. Kinship definitely connected to family, family to kinship, and these are something which are interconnected in nature, right? So this interconnection comes under system and process, that we study every other system with respect to, or in study with respect to every other system within a system. So basically here within a system we are trying to study. So again the three, that is biological, cultural and social. In this, that there is morphology, anatomy, analogy, serology, etc. This are the topics that we'll discuss when we'll start chapter 9 paper 1, but here just for the basic introduction, anatomy, analogy, genetics, respiration. These are basically systems under biological anthropology. In cultural, in social, it is status, it is role, then there is structure, organization and functions. Status, role, structure, organization and functions are under social. And in cultural, there is family, kinship, marriage, economic and political organization. So this basically will come under the cultural aspect. So if we are studying any, we'll studying family, we'll study it with respect to kinship, with respect to marriage, economy and political organization. While studying anatomy, we'll also study analogy, genetics and respiration. This is something which is which becomes a system. Then that system has to be studied not in isolation but in with respect to the other systems. Ultimately gets understand of whole aspect with each other. This method is reinforced holism in anthropology. So basically this method supports or reinforces the holistic anthropology. Holistic anthropology. The next very important method, research method, is Amiconetic. Amiconetic approach is an approach which is done with two perspective, which is insiders view and outsiders view. Insiders view and outsiders view. The amic view is basically insiders view, and etic view is outsiders. Here one has to forget all the pre-notion and presupposition one has to study from their perspective, from their point of view, without losing its own. So amic is somewhere where we have to give up our own presupposition or pre-notions, and we have to understand the topic or the ritual or the institution as it is being told by the insider one, and we have to consider the insider's view. But while dealing with the etic approach, we as an outsider, how we look at that culture, we will write down that. Here cultural relativism I had mentioned about a personality, that is Franz Boas. Franz Boas. He'll come with again important topic, cultural relativism. Cultural relativism is that it is very simple, that none of the culture is superior or inferior with respect to any other culture or whatever that thing is. So if there is A and B, there may be a possibility of A is using a spoon to eat rice, B is not using spoon, it is using hands. So the ultimate goal is eating, right? So what Franz Boas is saying, that this is right for them and this is right for them. We are no one to justify that the one who are using spoons are good or the one who are using hands are not good. So this is what Franz Boas is. We'll study cultural relativism in chapter 2, but here it is just to introduce that what cultural relativism is. So remember this spoon and hand thing. We'll also discuss this particular topic, right? The next is both opinion comprehends and complete each other, right? Emic and epic approach. Emic and etic approach is basically something which complements each other. And at the same time it may be contradictory in some right. It may be contradictory in some cases. Here one has to be of a balanced approach. So this is what I'm explaining this topic, and at the same time I'm giving you the pointers. You write down these pointers and remember the sentence that we have talked. You can simply write down the sentence which we have talked while discussing the particular points. Thus the approach provides completeness to the description, analysis and interpretation of the subject matter of anthropology. So this thing, it provides us with description, analysis and interpretation of the subject matter of anthropology. The last thing that we are going to discuss today is the case study approach. Case study approach. So it examines in depth the biological, cultural and social aspect of individual, a family, association, community or a single episode. By analyzing several case studies of some societies on same topic, one can learn much about the subject matter of anthropology. So if we have to study family in society A, if we have to learn about an institution called as family in society A, what we are going to do here is we will take down the institution of family in various societies. We'll understand how the things are in family in various society, and then we'll try to understand that with respect to A. We'll understand A with respect to of the other institutions, only family here, with respect to other societies. A case study is research method involving an up-close and in-depth detailed examination of subject matter of anthropology. So in case study there is a research method which is up-close and in-depth examination. At the same time, here we study the several case studies on same society or same society and on same topic, right? This may involve both qualitative as well as quantitative and quantitative Methods. A case may have been studied by an individual, organization, an event, and also of clinical practices. So this case study involves first is case selection, second is best method to study that, the third is advantage of the survey, and the fourth is limitation of the methods. So what case study involves? Case study involves case selection, then the best method to study, then the advantage of the survey, and the fourth is limitation of the method. There are three types of case study in public relation research. The first is linear, second is process oriented, and grounded. So this is basically a fodder, the types of case study. This is important. Write down everything what we have talked about case study and whatever was there on the screen, because as far as the research methods are concerned, case study is important. Okay, what it involves, the types of case studies, right? The first type is linear, second is process oriented, and the third is grounded. What are the applications? Applications are important, right? Application, it says that in library as a source of knowledge, okay, as a source of knowledge. Second, it can be used for the clinical research. The third, it can be used for electronic community network research. So it can be basically used for research in general, where the people of the globe will connect with each other and use these case studies. So this is what we discussed about it, right? Now in the last lecture, in this particular, the last topic, we will discuss about the nature of anthropology, and we will wind up this topic. Anthropology is most comprehensive in nature. It involves biological. What it is comprehensive. It involves biological, social, and cultural across time and space. This was the, and we'll write down the definition, this is the definition which was given by Marvin Harris. That is the science of humankind. Three categories of science are broadly, these three categories of science, that is biological, social, and cultural, are basically engaged in the study of humankind. That is biological, humanities, and social science. So we will study that how anthropology is scientific or it is comprehensive. So there are three things by which we can say that. First is biological, second by humanities, and third is social science. Anthropology as a biological science we will discuss first and write down some points, and then we'll come to the next. Anthropology as a biological science, like other biological science, namely anatomy, physiology, morphology, and other anthropology, studies human being as an organism, like basically here primate that we are talking about. And as a part of studies, organism, origin of anthropology or origin of human being is what we study. and biological nature of human with respect to its evolution, genetics, anatomy, analogies, racial discrimination, race nation. See, this, as far as this topic is concerned, we'll study this in chapter 9. Even genetics is there in chapter 9. Evolution will come in chapter 2. It will be very closer to us now. That is what will come under anthropology, being a biological science. Now we'll come to the anthropology as a humanity. Anthropology as humanity, like history, like literature, art, philosophy, and others. Anthropology also examines the origin and evolution of human, and will study evolution of human, right? Behavioral traits, the ability, that his ability to form culture, language, and learning, art and craft. So culture, learning, art and craft. So this is what the abilities of human being are. So these abilities comes under humanity. Anthropology as a social science, like sociology or psychology or economics or political science and so on. Anthropology deals with human behavior in general. So basically here is human behavior in general is what we are going to talk or discuss. Decision maker and practitioners of power relationship and as individual with psychological facilities. So this is basically makes it a social science. Anthropology, first we discussed at anthropology as biological science, then we talked about anthropology as humanities, and then anthropology as social science. All these show that anthropology is a whole science. It is a complete and complex in nature. It gives comprehensive holistic study of humankind through time and space. So this is basically the nature of anthropology. In the next video we will come and we will start with a very important topic, that is branches of anthropology, and every year the question comes from this topic, so this topic become very important for every aspirant to start with. So in the next lecture we'll start with the branches of anthropology. Thank you for watching.